Okay.
All right.
So,
You were just talking about the Paralympic Games.
yeah, it was amazing. I mean, so many things were okay. I should step back and say, like, having gone to World Championships at that point, been 3 times prior to going to the games. The World Championships are a huge deal, and it's cool, and they're cool. Like they're always in some like unique, interesting European city, and when you're there, you're around all the best rowers in the world, and it's a big deal in the rowing world, especially. But outside of the rowing world, the World Championships, people are impressed, but it's still a little bit of a smaller scale. Anyway, so as soon as we got to Paris, like it was a different feeling. We got off the airplane, and there's like 5 Parisian cops with machine guns, like escorting us through the airport. And we went to then we got to we had a police escort in our team bus, like when we went to the Olympic Village. So, which is in the Olympic Village, is like was awesome, super. It's like amazing. Like the Team USA had its own house, like a 6-story apartment building, and each of the teams were on different floors. And on the bottom of the building, there was like food in the Team USA house for Team USA athletes. There's like couches and stuff like that, and TV, so all the athletes were down there. Then in the village itself, like it's awesome. Like the energy is amazing. Like everybody's super happy to be there. Everybody's jazzed to be there. There was like 4,000 Paralympic athletes in the village, and yeah, from all over the world. In the dining hall, it was really cool. Like they had the double chocolate muffins that like were sort of popular from the one swimmer guy. Anyway, the food was good. Yeah, and you got to interact with all these other people from all these different countries who were in different sports, and who had all kinds of different things going on. Yeah, I mean the Olympic Village was super fun. The venue, the rowing venue was like 30 minutes northeast of the city at this like really nice lake, and yeah, there's like 10,000 spectators at the rowing race, like which is really unusual for a rowing race. So, and of course, if I failed to mention, I think one of the coolest parts of the whole thing was the opening ceremony for us. We walked down the Champs-Elysees into the stadium, and there was like, I don't know, there's like I don't know how many people are again. I think there's like 40,000 people in the stadium, like going crazy, So that was one of the coolest things I've done, I think, as an athlete, going this opening ceremony. So,
well, and what were your thoughts? What were your expectations beforehand? The difference between the Olympics. You probably watched the Olympics opening ceremonies and have seen them in the past.
Yeah.
Your expectations of that compared to the Paralympics, did it meet your expectation, exceed them? I mean, were you surprised?
Let's see, a couple things. Let's see. Maybe my expectations were pretty high, and I would say it certainly lived up to it, if not exceeded it, as far as like being in the Olympic Village and all the cool stuff in the Olympic Village, like the arcade and the gym, and like interacting with all the different athletes. Like one of my favorite things about both the World Championships and the Paralympics was talking to other rowers, especially like other people in my competitors, like my international competitors. So you got to like spend time with them. What else I was going to mention? There's something else too. The rowing was interesting. One interesting about the rowing was like normally at the World Championships, the para events are interspersed with the able-bodied events. So the World Championships, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different events, a lot of different boats training and practicing before the events, lots of racing, lots of people. But at the Paralympics, like there's relatively small number of events, like compared to the World Championships. So it seemed like really quiet. It's like, it felt very intense, like when you're on the water, because there's like very few boats, only a couple coaches like on the shore. This is during the practice time. And then during racing, like, yeah, there's 10,000 spectators in the grandstands, but on the water, there's only, it's like really sort of feels really like quiet, and like it's very really quiet, which sort of ratchets up the intensity, I guess you would say. So, yeah. So,
yeah. I know. Well, I was there with you at the Paralympic Games, and when you mentioned, I actually didn't know the number 4,000 athletes, or was that athletes? And that doesn't include volunteers and coaches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just also remember seeing an entire village of people of all shapes and sizes and various abilities, and using different pieces of equipment like skateboards and wheelchairs and crutches, and it was really I wouldn't say it was eye-opening. It was empowering. It felt like, because everybody was just able to move, and they all looked at each other as equals.
Yeah.
I don't, do you have anything to say for yourself from that? Because to be in that, I would typically, when you're a person with disability, you mentioned, like, there's a smaller group, you're a smaller subset, right? Like at the World Rowing Championships, you were among all these others, but you guys were the smaller subset. Or, you go to your boathouse, how many people there, do you know of that have Parkinson's or have some other disability that you don't necessarily know that, but here everybody's together. So did that come up for you, or did anyone, among the athletes that you saw?
Yeah, a couple things about this that are relevant that I agree that you sort of touched that you mentioned are important. Yes, at the World Championships, one thing that's good about the World Championships, that for rowing at least, I know other sports do different things. For rowing at least, is the able-bodied athletes we're rowing alongside the able-bodied athletes during the schedule, which is cool. It's nice to like be in the same venue with those guys and see them and hang out and all that. But yeah, sometimes it is a little intimidating at times. You feel a little bit, awkward, because you move a little differently, or what, if I can imagine, I'm not in a wheelchair, but so makes you a little more self-conscious at the World Championships, I guess is how I would describe it. Because you feel a little bit like an oddball at the World Championships, as much as it's nice to be around your able-bodied teammates. And so at the Paralympics, this was one of the things I noticed, like a couple things. First of all, the accessibility was amazing in the Olympic Village. Like you mentioned, you could get around so easily no matter what was going on. And like you said, it was really nice being around. Just everybody there had a disability, all the athletes, at least, obviously. So you didn't feel like as much as a strange or odd, or like an oddball, I guess you'd say, like, and you didn't have to worry whether it's true or not. You get a little self-conscious sometimes, as like an athlete with a disability. So like I said, I can hide it a little bit, but even still, you feel self-conscious about the way you're moving, or, that you're struggling to carry like your food tray. So at the Paralympics, like I didn't necessarily have any of that feeling of everybody else is dealing with something else too. So it made you feel very comfortable and less like self-conscious about your own situation,
So now, since you're no longer there in that situation, but since that experience, have you found that you are more comfortable with your disability, or your movement pattern now that you're back in, away from all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I try hard to be, I guess you would say, be very like easy on myself, and not worry about how I present to the world sometimes, and just be a little more confident. But it's given me a little bit of perspective. I think maybe like bigger perspective, both having overall and going to the Paralympics, like with my disease, is that it makes you think that, I don't know, it makes you think, I guess it maybe gives you a little more grace for people, is a way to say it, because you sort of realize that a lot of people are going through, it gives you like, like I said, grace, because it makes you realize that like a lot of other people are going through things which you may or may not realize how hard they are, so it gives you,
Right.
it broadens your perspective in that regard, because you think, you realize like, everybody like at some level is dealing with, something, something that makes her life challenging. So.
Well, I know that, there are challenges, as you mentioned, with your rowing technique. But I also rowed with you in a boat, and, practiced with you, and certainly felt like it was there may have been some things that you have to change and accommodate to, but it was a very good experience to row with you.
That's good. Yeah.
Felt like really strong, and I felt like I could continue to row. Like nothing that you would do in that boat affected really me. I mean, yes, I would have to make some changes, but I was able to make changes and still be as powerful as I wanted to be.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it was pretty exciting and fun. I mean, we had some pretty powerful or good speed when we
Yeah,
took,
sure.
like short little stretches and stuff. So, well, to close out, I mean, just like, a couple more minutes, but just to talk a little bit about some of your advocacy that you do, and maybe start off with, what do you think people misunderstand or overlook about athletes with disabilities?
Yeah, I think a couple. Let's see. One of the things that immediately came to mind when I was thinking about this question was is that the way that Paralympic athletes present. Well, first of all, they're not Paralympic athletes are elite. Like truly the ones on the national team or going to Paralympics aren't truly like elite athletes. What they do, they're really good at. First, that's the first thing. So, and they train much the same as like their able-bodied counterparts. As far as like intensity and like how hard they're training. So, it's not necessarily like there's not a lot of difference, I guess you would say. So between how hard and how well the two types of athletes, I guess I'm articulating that correctly, but I guess that's my point. Like it's not, there's not that huge of a difference between the two groups, between like the able-bodied and the para athletes. So yeah.
Great.
What is the other part? What was I going to say? I don't know. Let's see. Oh, the other thing I was thinking too, there's a lot more there's a wide variety of different types of para sporting sporting opportunities. Like, so I think sometimes I don't think people understand like all the different types of sports you can do that you can do with a disability, from cycling to goalball to, volleyball. There's like a huge range of sports that are out there. So
yeah.
Yeah.
What would you like to see change in the way society or sporting organizations support like inclusive sport?
Yeah, I guess kind of maybe what I was saying before. Yeah, just having getting like people in the door at some place at organizations, like getting people with disabilities in the door of different sporting organizations. I think that's the challenge initially. It's like presenting them, having them get exposed to a variety of different types of sports. So yeah, and I don't know, maybe, increasing like the accessibility or access to the variety of sports options that are out there. Like I said, from volleyball, tennis, basketball, rugby, there's like a ton actually. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you think would be important for people to hear about, disability, resilience, access?
Yeah. We were talking about advocacy. It's not, I'm a member of a nonprofit organization here in town. It's called the Brian Grant Foundation. It's a Parkinson's group. Brian Grant was an NBA player who got diagnosed after he stopped playing when he was young, like 38. But here's where I was going with this: is that, I'm on their board right now, and they do all these events and things like that. But it was, they have these monthly meetups with people with Parkinson's, and everybody else on the board of the patient board has Parkinson's. So it's nice interacting with other people who have the same disability as you, because I didn't. The first time I met somebody else with Parkinson's was probably like a year after I got diagnosed. So it's like, it's nice to meet others who are in a similar situation to you, and then you can sort of commiserate a little bit. So I guess that might be my main thing, is like, try to find, see it helps interacting with others who have a similar disability. Yeah, because it just gives you a little bit of like solidarity or the ability to commiserate a little bit. And yeah, you don't feel like you're as alone in the world, so to speak.
How did you find that organization?
Oh, my neurologist told me about it actually. So that's how, through my doctor just mentioned it. He mentioned it upon diagnosis, but he gave me like a flyer, and so I didn't actually seek it out till like a year later. But I think I just kind of like put it in my mental back pocket, whatever, if you want to say. So my doctor was the one who sort of pointed me in that direction, saying.
So, and then what's interesting is the, are these organizations now, they're supporting people at all levels, and whether they are wanting to do daily tasks in life or get more information about medications, but is a sports side of it, is access to sport part of what that organization advocates for?
Well, to a certain extent, I think yes. I mean, one of the, as opposed to say like the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which a lot of people know about. Michael J. Fox Foundation, one of their main goals is like the help raise money for research, into Parkinson's. The Brian Grant Foundation's mission statement is that I think it's like to increase the quality of living for people with Parkinson's. So they're not necessarily like funding money for research. They have programs like diet programs, exercise programs, they're focused on lifestyle. So at a certain extent, like with Parkinson's, especially exercise is one of the things that's like really helpful with the condition. So they really do encourage exercise, but it's more, not necessarily sport, but they do encourage exercise. So
yeah.
Do
you continue to do any kind of like journaling, or are you still, how can people follow your journey? Are you writing? Are you doing any kind of Instagram or anything like that for the causes? Or how do they find out about?
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, how do they find out more about like that Brian Grant Foundation? Or any other group that you want to?
I have a website which I don't necessarily update as frequently as I should, but it has a lot of story, at least a lot of like my background stories, some cool photos and videos, and I think the main thing I try to like I try to post on Instagram pretty regularly with what I'm doing as far as in life, as far as like working out, I've still been rowing quite a bit and coaching and things like that. So I try to post regularly on Instagram as far as what I'm up to.
And what's your website?
My website is easy to remember. It's toddvotrowing.com. My first name, last name, rowing.com. It links to my socials like Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram handle is like not unless you're a rower, it wouldn't make sense. It's Engine Room 23. So Engine Room, like obviously you know what it means, Andrea, but just for anybody watching this, like in an 8-person boat, which is sort of the blue ribbon event within the rowing world, there's 8 rowers on the coxswain. Sort of the middle of the 4 middle rowers in the middle of the 8-person boat are called the engine room. So it's both the term of sort of like it recognizes those guys are like the biggest and most powerful guys in the boat, or people in the boat, but they're also not necessarily like the most technically proficient per se. So the engine room are like the big knuckleheads in the boat. So that your job is just to like go until your legs fall off, kind of. So yeah. So.
Right. Wow. Well,
it's like a rowing in joke, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right. Well, I think this has been great. I know we spent we had a nice long chat here, that's for sure. So I appreciate your time. And if folks wanted to get a hold of you, would you be okay if they reached out to you, like whether it's on Instagram or through your website?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Feel free, anybody.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thanks so much. And good luck with everything. And remind us one more time. It's the Brian Grant Foundation.
Brian Grant Foundation. Yeah.
Okay. We'll look that up too. All right. Well, thanks. I'm going to close off the recording for now.
All right. Thanks.
All right.